Video games have evolved exponentially in the past 50 years. You may be used to the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One now, however only 15 years ago the Nintendo Wii was released, a console that took the gaming market by storm. 5 years before that was the GameCube, 5 years before that the Nintendo 64, the Super Nintendo, the NES, the Atari, the Odyssey, and before that... too far. The 80s was a crazy time for many industries, such as movies, music, technology, comic books. But there's one industry that grew more rapidly than all of those combined. Arcades were in a boom of popularity in the early 80s. It was the new social nexus. Kids would spend every penny on games like Donkey Kong, Galaga, Pac-Man, Space Invaders. However, in an unnamed arcade in Portland, Oregon, it was rumored that something more ominous and obscure lurked. A limited release game that's fast-paced, weird, puzzle element gameplay caused headaches, sickness, night terrors, suicidal thoughts, and even sudden death. A possible government experiment operated by the CIA or Men in Black. A game called Polybius. The most consistent evidence for Polybius' existence through all claims are the same. The name, the year, and the company. One screenshot that is as old as the myth itself. It is rather basic, a black background with the Polybius logo, the company name, year of release, and the credits, nothing else. But a lot can be taken from it. Compared to other 1981 cabinet games, this logo is unusually large and detailed. Back then, graphics were confined to the printed marquees. Every kilobyte of ROM was valuable. What about Cinesolution? No companies by this name have been proven to have existed. But what does Cinesolution mean? It comes from the German origin, Sinus meaning sense and loken meaning to lose. It doesn't quite make grammatical sense. However, roughly translates to lose senses. Other screenshots also exist, with this one linking back to an article from April of 2004 from a site called Cinesolution.com. This website has a downloadable link of a Polybius ROM. How about physical evidence?
During my search, I found that there are two convincing pieces of physical evidence for Polybius. Images of circuit boards have been shared, such as this one. If it were real, this would be very valuable. However, it is sadly just a bootleg Miss Pac-Man with some minor photoshopping. Secondly, there's a picture of the supposed cabinet of Polybius. It comes from a trusted website, Arcade Museum. The image shows a Namco-style cabinet, which dated back to 1979 to 1981. Meaning it could be real or potentially just a Photoshop, or a custom-built game. The controls, a single button and a joystick, are very different to the ones at the time.
Surely a developer of the game, or someone that has at least seen it, has come forward. Well, some have, if you believe them. The most famous of these accounts is Stephen Roach, a man who claims to be a developer of the game. Though many argue his claims are convincing, they can easily be picked apart. With many flaws, inconsistencies, and language more suiting for a cheesy ghost story, it just doesn't add up. For example, he states that he was born in Rhyl, Wales, and moved to Czechoslovakia in 1965 at the age of 15 due to his parents' business interests, which is interesting, as the country was under the rule of a communist dictatorship at that time. Rather than chasing unverifiable rumors from 40 years ago, how about we track down the origin point of the myth? As a starting point, we will use the main Wikipedia page of Polybius, published in February of 2005. However, this isn't the first time Polybius was mentioned on Wikipedia. On the 30th of November, the page for the Greek historian Polybius had a page amendment, adding that it was also an urban legend game. On the 29th of February, the same year, we see the first reference on Wikipedia of Polybius. Going back even further through the web, a post from one Simon Iker on a forum called /dot asks about the game in August of 2003. In the early 2000s, GamePro was a very popular gaming magazine amongst the youth. Issue 180, published September of 2003, in an article called Secrets and Lies, covers game mysteries, debating if they are true, a lie, or inconclusive. Number 6 was Polybius, with the conclusion inconclusive due to lack of evidence. However, this still isn't the earliest mention on the web. On February 15th, 2003, GoodDealGames.com published their article, with a thank you to coinop.org at the bottom. Coinop.org was a website for video game collectors and enthusiasts. It also hosts a feature of blogs as well as a giant game list. The site contains a blog about Polybius, along with the date the article was supposedly created, the earliest one yet, 3rd of August 1998. But is it verifiable? The URL has had several changes in its lifespan, making it hard to track down using the Wayback Machine. However, with enough digging, we can go back as far as February 6th, 2000, not 1998. Even after digging through Usenet archives, all I found related to Polybius are a few discussions from the year 2000, all after the CoinOp article was posted. This means we can only assume coinop.org is where the story began. Therefore, Kurt Koller, the site's owner since 1998, would have complete control over the site, including the Polybius page. Perhaps he was tipped off by someone, or perhaps he created the whole mystery himself.
Kurt was the person who first tipped me off about Polybius. I've thought about it for a long time, and ultimately I came to the conclusion some years ago that Kurt was probably just making all of this up and pulling the wool over my eyes, and he sent it in as a tip to see if I would bite, and obviously I bit.
Kurt Koller was behind coinop.org and is therefore responsible for the earliest mention of Polybius on the internet. As an arcade enthusiast, Kurt would be familiar with games from the Polybius era, actually having a collection of cabinets himself. As a web developer, he would have the access to the necessary skills to forge a convincing looking screenshot. He also had some familiarity with the German language, but wasn't fluent, hence the grammatical mistake in Sinneslotion. Finally, he had a motive. Kurt wanted to drive traffic to his new site, coinop.org, even tipping off GamePro magazine to engrave the legend into history.